So this dude walked up to me the other day in the gym and said the forbidden words that you never want to hear while you're in the middle of lifting weights. You're doing that wrong. It was so annoying. I hate it when people do that. And in my head, I'm thinking, thanks for the unsolicited advice, you asshole. Now, I only thought that. I didn't say it. Instead, I replied with, oh, yeah? Okay. How so? And then, of course, the guy immediately jumps into this monologue while I'm still finishing my set about how I need to pinch my shoulder blades more, blah, 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 and then tries to sell me on personal training program with him. And I'm like, it's just, first off, he wasn't entirely wrong in the fact that my form wasn't picture perfect, but I damn well knew what I was doing. In fact, I used to be a very complimented personal trainer myself. And I used to compete in men's physique shows as well. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but I know what I'm doing in the gym. I know how to perform lifts safely and effectively. But I wasn't so much frustrated that he wanted to offer advice, but it was all about the approach. And if you've worked out at the gym, or there's other areas in life where we see this happen, just unsolicited advice all over the place. And I'm thinking, like, number one, I don't know who you are. I don't know what your training accolades are. You look like you're in shape, but you don't look like you're in fantastic shape. And obviously that's part of marketing yourself as a personal trainer. You have to look good. That's just part of it, right? Or else you don't look very credible. Like, people aren't going to trust that you can help them lose belly fat if you have a huge belly. And like I said, like, he wasn't wrong, but it was this approach. And this story really makes me think of what today's entry is on, because there's a lot of lessons to extract from this encounter. But as a new personal trainer, this dude could potentially be selling way more training packages if he did this one thing differently. So now let's highlight what is the problem that we're trying to solve in today's entry. So the problem is that new one-person businesses often struggle to be taken seriously due to a lack of social proof or a backlog of work to validate their expertise in the eyes of their target audience. And with an increasing number of posers on the internet, we as people have become incredibly selective about who we follow and who we buy from online. And this is hard when you're a new business, when you're new to an industry. And like, how do you build up the credibility so that people can take you seriously and actually want to not only follow you, but purchase from you? You don't want to sound like a know-it-all, especially if you don't have a backlog of proof that verifies to them that you are who you say you are and you actually are good at what you claim to be good at. And so here's a very simple solution, and this is what today's entry is on. Consider making content for yourself from a stance of how I more than how to. And this isn't an original concept. I've seen this online in some places, but I think it needs to be highlighted and brought to the table for the audience here of new and aspiring one-person online businesses. And so here's what I mean by this and why, and I'll explain why this will garner immediate interest from your target audience. But let me tell you a story first about your boy Evan. This is what I've learned, is the whole fake it till you make it just doesn't work in this context. You have to apply that in a very specific type of way, and only works in certain circumstances. Like in my life, I've faked it so many times. I feel like in every different path that I've taken, I've done all sorts of different jumps in my career over the time. And in my young 30s, I feel like I've lived a full lifetime in some sense. And I've faked it till I made it, quote unquote, so many times that it's become second nature for me, especially when I chose to freelance my way into a marketing career instead of going the formal education route. For me, like my story getting into marketing, I had a full-time job, had nothing to do with marketing at all. It was actually more music related. And while doing that, I knew that I wasn't going to be in that job forever. It wasn't like my life's destiny. And I was becoming fascinated with marketing, just in general. Like, I've always loved business. I've always been very entrepreneurial as far as like how my brain operates. And marketing seemed like the perfect balance between kind of like a scientific approach to building business while also being incredibly creative as well. And so that's kind of what drove me towards it. But I knew that I wanted to become a marketer in some sense, or have a marketing career that was going to be kind of what I hang my hat on long term. This was back in 2018 or so. And so my first little chance into doing any marketing was I had a friend, well, we're still friends, but he had a small online retail business and he needed help sending out a few emails. And obviously that's part of the marketing. He was doing some promos trying to sell off some inventory. And so, he paid me I think $50 to send a couple emails for him. And I did that out of MailChimp. And all of a sudden, boom, naturally, now I'm an email marketer. So I was thinking, that's just because once again, just with ambition and intention, I was like, okay, well, now that I've been paid more than $1 to do a certain task for somebody in the marketing realm, now I'm an email marketer. And, so obviously I had very little skill in this arena, but I had a lot of ambition. So what did I do? I went to Upwork, just an online freelancing marketplace that anybody can sign up for. And I created a free Upwork profile and I put my email marketing services up for sale to anybody in the world to hire me at $40 an hour. And believe it or not, you may be thinking, well, that's really astronomical of you to just assume that you're worth $40 an hour. And some of you guys are like, hey, go for it. I'm excited for you that you are willing to kind of put yourself out there like that. So no matter where you land on that spectrum, believe it or not, I did get a few gigs. And so what happened is I slowly began to develop my skill set. And little did I realize that even though I thought I knew a lot, the people on the internet were not so convinced. Because here's the news flash. It takes years of experience to become an authority on a subject matter. And faking this online just doesn't work. There's just too many phonies on the internet claiming to have the secrets that you need. And we've all seen it. And we've all become really, really good at spotting this BS early on. And one of the lessons that I've learned worth sharing right here is that with a client, you can learn on the fly and you can apply brand new skills to the task at hand. But in the world of social media content and marketing yourself as an up-and-coming brand, if you try to fake it, you're going to faceplant, and it's going to be faceplanting publicly. And so you have to be really careful because you don't want to rub people the wrong way right off the get. You have no followers, you have no established credibility, you don't have any case studies or much of a portfolio. How can you get people to take you seriously online? Because once again, in a one-on-one environment with a client, you can start to build the rapport over the phone. You can clarify the needs, and then you can sell them on your ability to provide a solution. Because then what you can do is once you sell them on that, and you guys have kind of done the handshake over the phone and you're going to start working for them on a project or ongoing, what you do is then you aggressively start learning what you need to on the fly to make it happen. Welcome the power of Google and YouTube. I am a student from the university. I don't think I won't say I'm a graduating student. I'll never graduate from this, but I am a student at the University of YouTube and Google.com, and now with ChatGPT as well too. And so what you do is you just learn on the fly. So in that one-on-one environment, it works. You can still kind of do the fake it till you make it approach. Obviously, you want to keep your integrity intact and you don't want to just straight up lie to people saying that you have all sorts of experience if you don't. Instead of focusing on that little side note tip, if you're getting into the freelance space, instead of trying to sell them on all of your past accolades, which at this point you wouldn't have if you're new in the freelancing space like I was, you sell them on their perception, that their belief that you can actually provide the solution. And so it becomes much more of just being a very good listener and letting them know that there are routes to solve the problem that they have and that you're going to do everything in your power to get them there. And this is what they can expect along the way. And then what I did is I talked a lot about how I will heavily prioritize communication, that I'll continually check in with you to make sure that you're satisfied with the progress that's being made, so on and so forth. So I'm really selling them on me as a person, somebody who is responsible, that's a good listener, that has their best interests in mind, and that will actually execute at the end of the day. That's what you sell them on. But in a one-to-many environment where it's you kind of broadcasting to the world like social media, it's very hard to claim and be seen as an expert if you haven't yet demonstrated this enough to validate those claims. It makes all the sense in the world, but see, what I didn't realize at that time, a couple years ago, was that this whole fake it till you make it philosophy, as noble as it is in some sense, it doesn't work on the internet. You can't fake it because people see it, and then you tarnish a reputation before you've really even gotten out of the gate. And so this is really hard if you're trying to make a living through your new one-person business in an industry that you're also new to, especially if you have no audience yet, which is often the case. And, my audience is still very, very small. Like, as I record this right now in July of 2023, I just crossed the 200 subscriber threshold on my email list, which is huge, but it's also like pales in comparison to so many other email newsletters. Like, I don't have, I think, 500 some subscribers on YouTube, which that's been built up over 15 years worth of being on the platform. And I don't have a huge audience, and I'm still relatively new. So this is hard. And if I've had to face these struggles, I know that there's a lot of you out there facing this as well. And maybe you're a couple steps, maybe I'm a couple chapters ahead of you just because I've been able to put in more time. So that's what I'm here to do, is to provide you some value and kind of take some of the stress away and provide you with the solution here. Because when you're getting started, the cards are just not stacked in your favor. So let's look at this very simple tweak to position your content in a way that builds trust and rapport with your target audience, even when you're not yet an expert. So let's look at how we can use the how I verbiage to grow your following. Instead of telling people to do something, or rather, instead of telling people how to do something, show them how you did something and then what the result was. And in my email newsletter, I have a screenshot of this guy. His name is, let me pull it up here, Marlon Johnson. And he says, how to is not as good as how I. It is better to share with people what has worked for you versus what theoretically works for all. Speak on your truth rather than claiming to know the truth. And I thought that was great. And so I replied to him on Twitter and I said, hey man, couldn't agree more. This is an incredibly effective way to position yourself if you are a new voice in your niche. Early in my one-person marketing biz, this was me kind of just letting him know, I tried to prove myself with how-to type content, but I would have grown way faster and built a lot more trust by leveraging how I type content. So really cool to see that other people are kind of picking up on this and really just promoting the fact that this really helps, especially when you're new. Positioning yourself as kind of documenting what you're doing. You're saying how I am doing this or how I did do this, like what I learned the hard way. All of that kind of stuff. Now you're framing information in a way that can't be argued with as much. Because the fact is, people don't like being told what to do most of the time, especially by a nobody. And if you have no audience, no offense, but you're kind of a nobody on the platform. That now you're wonderful and special, and I'm sure your parents love you, and the rest of the world will come around, but you have to earn that. You don't just get to come out of the gates and start telling people what to do with no followers and think that it's actually going to help grow your business and give you a good reputation. I learned that the hard way. And these people, they definitely don't want to hear advice from somebody that isn't either already a millionaire or has less than 50,000 followers or whatever. So they may read your post or watch your video, but they're probably sizing you up the whole time, sniffing out whether you're full of BS or not. And in most cases, they'll write you off because there's just no proof that your opinions or advice are valid. But if you instead rework that same content into a how I framework, all of those hurdles vanish immediately. They're gone. Like, for instance, no one can argue or refute your story on how I learned to play the piano in 1 hour. But they might write you off if you come out and say, here's how to learn the piano in 1 hour. Just that subtle shift really does change how people are going to receive the content and the information you're putting out there, and how they ultimately perceive you and the value that you bring. People can't argue with your experiences and what you learned from it. People can't call you a phony when you're working in public. People will pay attention to what you're doing to see if it works, and then they may try it too. People are quick to acknowledge and support your journey, but they're slow to take your advice. Yes, it's true. People are very quick to acknowledge and support other people on their journey if you're sharing it publicly, but they're not going to take your advice very quick. So, if you position your content accordingly so that you can build your following and grow your business, bada bing, bada boom, we're going the right direction. So here are some of the benefits, and we've already started to tap into it, but here are some of the benefits of how the whole how I content framework can really help you. Because beyond not looking like a poser, reframing your content away from how-to language and instead using the how I approach has a handful of benefits. Number one, you're going to have more content, which is great, because I think that's a problem for a lot of us in our one-person businesses, trying to create and keep up with the demands of content. And, obviously the social media feeds, they refresh every millisecond, basically. So whatever you spent a bunch of time on, like creating and then posting, is gone very quickly, especially when you're a smaller creator or you have a smaller account as you're getting started. So there's a huge benefit because you will have more content. Because when you document your journey, sharing what you're doing and how, it becomes much easier to generate more content due to the nature of just documentation. And as opposed to sitting down and trying to do education posts, education content, you're just documenting. There's things to learn through the process of documenting. And yes, so this education component and the documentation component, they do weave together nonetheless. So you can have your cake and eat it too. You will have more content by using the how I type of framework. The second benefit is that respect leads to trust. See, people respect honesty. And when you share how I style content, you're not spewing advice. You're sharing your process, creating your future self. And in a world riddled with anxiety, fear, and every self-limiting belief you can think of, documenting and sharing your journey breeds a lot of respect from people. And this leads to trust and then support and potentially even loyalty and new customers. And the third benefit that I'll share is that it's entertaining, because as humans, we love a good story, especially when it's one that complements our own interests and aspirations. You see, sharing your stories makes for a popcorn-worthy moment with every piece of content that you put out. So the trick is really to get good at story-based writing, which you'll probably outpace me on that one. I've always felt like I kind of struggle with being a great storyteller, whether through writing or just in person, but it's something that I'm consistently chipping away at and, just putting in the reps, just practicing. I've already shared a couple stories here in today's entry, so hopefully they were good. But yeah, well, like when you're starting out, you just can't promise the world that you have the secrets to success. You haven't done it, period. Like if I were to come out here and say how to make $1 million, like I haven't done that yet. The keyword being yet. We're going to continue to go. I'm going to continue to climb my personal mountain of success. And if that is a milestone that I reach on the way up to the top, then yeah, I can start to claim, here's how I made $1 million. Here's what I learned. See how I'm using the how I methodology still? And then you could say, here's what I learned. Here's how to do it. Here's how to do it for yourself. It starts to make more sense. It's much more credible, much more legit. So with this adjusted approach, you haven't made a promise of success like the people that start any sentence with how to, but you're just sharing an experience that may lead to success when you're saying how I and then finishing the sentence. Don't tell people what to do. Show people what you are doing and what you're learning. It's way more magnetic and genuine. And because of that, people will connect with it and relate to it in a whole new way, and you will start to grow. So as we wrap up this entry, I want to share some more practical examples, and I will say quickly, there's a link in the description here, whatever platform you're listening or watching this content on. It's the How I Content Prompts cheat sheet that I put together for you that obviously complements today's entry perfectly. And it's packed with 32 prompts that use this exact framework, and it's totally free for you. So go over there and grab it, link in the description. And I hope you can start to use that to help you kind of come up with more content, because the benefit, like I said, you're going to have a lot more content when you apply this, because you're just documenting what you're doing, and people love that. And it's going to earn you a lot of respect, and that's going to lead to trust. And then, of course, it's just entertaining. People love to watch the story of other people succeed. And, in the stuff where you mess up, fail, or learn from it, people are going to value the fact that you shared some of the weaker moments, the mess ups, things like that. So it fosters connection, trust, loyalty, and those are the types of people that you want to do business with. You want to have them as subscribers, and then obviously have them as customers if you have offers that complement what you're putting out. So with that, here's a couple quick just like ideas just to leave you with this. And of course, you can grab that cheat sheet, link in the description. But here's some prompts that you could just, I kind of rattled off in my head. So I'm going to fire off a bunch of them at you. You could say, how I did blank to succeed. Or I did blank and learned that it doesn't work. Or I'm currently doing blank because of blank. I'll share what I learn. So that's like more you in the trenches. It's not something that you've learned yet, but saying, hey, I'm going to keep updating you along the way. Or you could say, my goal is blank, so I'm doing blank. Or I tried blank, but not sure how to make it work. Do you have any thoughts? See, now you're opening up a conversation loop there as well. And people that are a little bit ahead of you in their process, you'll probably start to get some pretty awesome free advice that way too. Or two more for you. My current routine for blank. That's a post right there. Or I quit doing blank because of blank. And so all of this, it could be the topic structure for pillar content that you're writing for your email newsletter, your blog, your podcast, whatever it is for you. And then, of course, as I always try to preach, it does repurpose very perfectly into micro content. And that's kind of the big thing that I'm hanging my hat on these days as far as how I want to be able to provide value for you. And this is what's been working for other people that I've helped. And, I just put out this content creation toolbox, which is a Notion template that basically it's pre-built, it's ready to go. It's got AI prompts in there and all sorts of little things in there that help you basically create, log your ideas, develop, manage, and repurpose all of your content. And it's really built on the framework of having pillar content and having micro content, and how you build the system so that content creation becomes a lot easier for you, and it becomes a very high leveraged movement for you, a task that you're doing each week, or whatever your routine is. This content creation toolbox will really help you kind of stay organized and keep out of the chaos and the stress that comes with keeping up with the world of content and social media content marketing. So make sure you check that out. And I hope you enjoyed today's entry. Thank you for being here. Leave a like or a comment depending on the platform that you're on. And just really thankful to have you here. The community's growing. And I'm just really excited for where we're going. We are almost at a full year of these M&M entries, at least in the email format. And so now I'm stoked to be able to bring this to you in a video podcast format as well on YouTube, Spotify, you name it. We're pretty much there with all of it. And then what do I do? Naturally, I'm taking this pillar piece that I'm recording right now, and I'm going to chop it up into a bunch of micro content pieces, so that I can promote my brand and my mission and my values across other channels like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. And I can help you do that as well. Hit me up if you're interested, evanshank.com, or email me at evan@evanshank.com. That's also very easy. Make sure you go to the description to grab the cheat sheet that I have for you here. And until next time, peace.